I guess now is as good a time as any to tell you guys that I wrote a book. And I didn't tell you guys for a long time, for basically most of the year and a half that it took me to write it, because I just wasn't convinced up until I just submitted the last draft that I was even able to write a book. But I'm super excited about it. I'm very proud of what I've done. It's called The Better Home Bartender, and it's a book geared to help you guys drink better, which has been the mission that Marius and I undertook 7 years ago when we started this channel. I'm telling you this because one of the book ideas that I had a long time ago, and now I really want to do, is a series of books based on different cities, kind of insider bartending books that have different bars and different bartenders in them, the ones that I find the most exciting, and then 3 recipes from each bar. And it's called the Drink Series, right? So the first one that I want to do is called Drinking Los Angeles. And I want to just go like city to city to city to city. Just a continuation of sort of the cities that we've done as cocktail videos. And then I thought to myself, maybe it might be better to just start it as a series. And then it got me thinking, like, what defines a cocktail from a specific place or city? Today, we're gonna be tackling some French cocktails, but what makes it French? Is it French because it came from a French bar? Is it French because it was inspired by France? Is it French because it was made with French ingredients? Well, today's video features 3 cocktails from 3 different French bartenders inspired by France and utilizing French ingredients. I find cocktail culture all over the world, the things that make it the same and the things that make it very different from one another, pretty fascinating. And I just want to share that with you. I am definitely going to get started on this new book. I think I might write it on spec. Marius is going to take the photographs, and we're going to start with Los Angeles. So anybody who has a bar that wants to put their name in the hat to get featured in this book, drop a comment below, and let's get into making some French cocktails. The French Manhattan is, well, just a French take on a Manhattan. It came out of the book, what's it called? Drinking French, but who the fuck wrote it? Hold on. Hold on 1 second. Hold on, all right? Hold on. Bop! By David Leibovitz. Is he a chef?
Sounds familiar.
David Leibovitz? Yeah, it seems like he's a chef. Hold on, let's just look up David Leibovitz real quick. A French Manhattan is, well, a French Manhattan because it uses some French ingredients, although I did, for the first time in the life of this channel, we are out of Dolin Vermouth, and so we have to use the Italian sweet vermouth instead. My apologies, I would use Dolin because that was my go-to for many, many years. I like the Coqui as well. It'd be nice to use a French vermouth in this video, but sometimes you just gotta roll with the punches. They're both gonna be very good in this cocktail. The cocktail recipe comes out of a book by David Leibovitz called Drinking French. David Leibovitz was a cook and a baker for most of his career. He worked at Chez Panisse for 13 years in Berkeley, and then left in 1999 to write books about French food and France. This is a book that has both French food and French-inspired cocktails. All right, let's do it. So first thing we're gonna do is 1 dash of Angostura bitters.
Does it call for Angostura specifically? It calls for Angostura specifically?
Yes, it does. Why?
No.
1/4 ounce of Grand Marnier.
I heard that this standard bitters company is pretty good.
Oh yeah, it is pretty good. But it called for Angostura in the recipe, not traditional bitters or aromatic bitters or anything, so. Had it called for aromatic bitters, I would have used the standard company because it is fantastic bitters. Fantastic. 1.5 ounces of sweet vermouth. And 1.5 ounces of cognac. Crack some ice. Crack a little more, make a big mess. It's all right, it's gonna be worth it in the end. Give it a stir. A little Luxardo here. I like to put it on the side like that so that we get rid of the syrup and you don't get too much in your drink. And we're just gonna plop that down in there. Where did I put it? Oh, I'm like looking around for it. I already put it in the damn glass.
Okay, Mr. Magoo.
Apparently that's not too far from the truth. All right, French Manhattan, here we go. Ooh, that's pretty good. Yeah, I like it. I think that the extra 1/2 ounce of vermouth and then lowering the cognac half an ounce really makes the vermouth very prevalent. You've got the cognac in there for like flavor, but also for body. And then you have all those botanicals, but then you also have that like almost citric bite. It is like that tart bite that good vermouth has. You combine that together with little Angostura bitters, and then you have the oranginess of the Grand Marnier playing in the background. What's nice about that Grand Marnier is that it's also made with cognac, a selection of orange peels macerated into cognac, so it all just plays really nicely together. It's a very nice drink. I would have a couple of these, I think. I like it. And you know what? It's, you know, decidedly different from what a Manhattan would normally be. There it is, guys, the French Manhattan. The Quatresse was created by a Paris bartender named Margot Le Carpentier.
That sounds correct.
I would like to buy a hamburger.
Le Carpentier. It's like Le Carpenter Hier, whatever. Le Carpentier. For her bar named Combat, and Combat takes its name from the area of Paris that it resides in, which is called the Quartier du Combat. And the reason why it's called that is because in the 1700s up into the mid 1800s, there was like a massive fight club arena where Parisians would pit animals against each other, like animal fights, but not just dogs. Dogs, bears, boars, wolves, and frickin' like, is that it? Is that bears? And bulls against each other. Then in the mid 1800s, the practice was banned because it was just completely barbaric, but it is really cool history. All right, let's make it. So this is gonna be a good one, you guys. We're gonna do 3 little small to medium sage leaves. If you want, so 3 medium to small sage leaves. If you have larger sage leaves, I can't talk today. If you have larger sage leaves, just do 2, okay? All right, was that so hard to get out? No, it wasn't so hard to get out in the end. And then we're gonna juice a lemon. I'm gonna say it like the French say it. Lemon. And then I'm gonna say the lemon. And I'm gonna put it in my sugar. Okay, we're gonna do 1 ounce of lemon. Just like so. We're gonna go get the simple syrup out of the fridge because we didn't when we were preparing. Like a smart guy.
Or did you even prepare?
I mean, I did, you know, not prepare so well today, just in general, but I did prepare for this cocktail pretty well. Then we're gonna do 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup in like so. We're gonna do a scant ½ teaspoon. Where did my ½ teaspoon go? Oh, it's probably in here. Oh, we're gonna have to dig for it. Oh, yeah. We're gonna have to, just dig through the trash for our teaspoon. We were doing all sorts of craziness today. Nope, it's on there.
Yeah, I don't think we used a teaspoon today.
No, I used a ½ teaspoon today when I
the
measured out
agar-agar?
the agar-agar. The agar-agar is right here.
Maybe it's in the bag?
No, I didn't put it in the bag. I wouldn't do that because I'm not stupid. Probably in the sink. Probably just took it to be washed at lunchtime or whatever. Yep, I was right. You were wrong. I'm smart. You're dumb. I'm cool. You're uncool. I'm really good looking. You're pretty not good looking. And there it is right there. All right. So a scant ½ teaspoon is a ½ teaspoon just below the ½ teaspoon mark. Scant ½ teaspoon, boop, of peated Scotch. Have a cap. And then we're gonna do 2 ounces of Suze. We are not gonna muddle. We're not gonna muddle. I'm gonna grab the cap though. Give it a little wiper down. I got this lovely glass that we never use. It is kind of nice. The flares out there. We got that thanks to Kevin Coase. Kevin Coase hooked us up with that glass a while ago. We were gonna do a video together like years ago, and the video never materialized, but the glass did get sent, and it's a very nice one. I'm just gonna preload this with some ice too. Ooh, Marius, are we gonna be able to get away with not cutting more ice? I don't even know if we have more ice to cut, honestly, so. Is this enough for the last cocktail? Probably. I think we're good, because the other cocktail served up. with an egg white. What? All right, let's give it a shake. I'm gonna let the shake do the muddling for us. Look at that, it just sprayed all up my arm. I'm gonna take a little sprig of sage here. I'm gonna whack-a-doodle it and give it a little crushy pants and a poo and well, all that good jazz, and we're just gonna stick it in there. Bam, like so. Let's give it a taste. Whoa, actually, it's really nice. What's crazy is that it's not crazy bitter because it's got so much lemon and sugar in it. And then you got the peat, which is crazy too. So you get that gentian right up front, and then it just devolves into just like a lemonade. It's basically like a lemonade, like a gentian lemonade, but then you have that scotch on the back end that brings in that peat, and you get that peaty, smoky minerality. It balances really nicely. I like this one. I would give it a taste or 2 or 3 or even 5. There it is, the Quatresse. The Giny Germain was created by a bartender named Antoine Goldschmidt at a cafe, bistro or whatever that he kind of revitalized. It was like an old spot that he revitalized, brought it back to its former glory. It's called Paulette Bistro, and it's named after its 2 main ingredients, Giny and Germain. It calls for 3 inches of cucumber that have been diced. We'll just throw that into our tin. That's a lot of cucumber though. 3 inches of cucumbers like that. And then dice it up and it's like that. It's gonna be crazy. I'm sure we're muddling this. And then we're gonna do, wait, put that for last here. 3/4 ounce of simple syrup. And then we're gonna do, so the recipe calls for lemon or lime. So you know what I decided to do? I'm gonna do lemon and lime. So we're just gonna do 3/8 ounce of both. Because why the heck not? I like the addition of lemon and lime together. It gives you a little bit of the sweet and a little bit of the tart, and it's just a very nice balance in a drink. So I recommend that all of you guys create new cocktails with lemon and lime together. So 3/8. Feel bad, but we're gonna pour this out. It's the last video of the day. It's a little wasteful, I'm sorry. You think this one tiny lime is going to produce 3/8 ounce of juice?
Yes.
You do? 100%?
Yes.
Willing to stake anything on that? Care to make a wager? No. Actually, after it's squeezed, I think it's definitely gonna be 3/8
Okay, how about $1,000?
Nope, too late. Ooh, more than a 3/8 ounce. That was good. That was good. I'm gonna give this the old muddle-palooza over here. Give it the old, oh, this is so much cucumber though. This is crazy. This is crazy amount of cucumber up in here.
3 inches is
3 inches is a lot.
Really? Nothing.
Gosh, dang. All right, well, I'll give it a good old muddle. It's gonna be very cucumber forward. And cucumber is gonna go so well with the St-Germain. 3/4 ounce of St-Germain. And I learned a new technique from Jason Yu while we were bartending together the other night. Watch. Sorry. Is it like this? No, how do you do it?
I guess you didn't learn it after all. Yeah.
Gotta practice it before I do it on camera. We're gonna do 2 ounces of gin, and we're using Citadel, which is a French gin. Oh, no, sorry, not 2 ounces. 1.5 ounces, 45 mils. Bam, 1.5 ounces, right in there. Get in there, motherfucker. Get in there, motherfucker. All right, and 1 egg white. We're gonna do it in a separate tin. Do you know why?
Yes.
Tell the audience why.
In case you mess up, people.
That's right, in case you mess up. You won't have messed up all your very expensive ingredients, and you can just crack another egg, provided that you have another egg. Luckily, we do. All right.
With these prices.
Give it a dry shake. What?
With these prices, you might not want it. It's like $1
true.
an egg.
All right. I'm gonna let this sit for a second. Let's go. So I put a little cheater cube in here to make sure we get the right dilution. Oh my God. Wow. It's very cucumbery and elderflowery. Whew, this is gonna be high volume, dude. It's probably gonna make more than what we got here. All right, and then Just gonna float a little cucumber disc on top. Or not float it.
Sink it to the bottom.
Or just sink it to the bottom. Maybe I should have done a really mandolin thin one.
I mean, you can do it now if you want, because we can't see the other one, so.
True. I gotta go get the mandolin and then set it to be very paper thin. But yeah, paper thin would be nice. I'm just gonna, no, it's gotta be thinner. It's gonna float on top of that foam. Nope, gotta be thinner. How thin can we make a cucumber? That's the question.
You can make it thinner than you can make it with that mandolin, just like in.
Huh? Haha. Let's taste it. Damn, that's good. Rich, very cucumber forward, and also very St-Germain forward. St-Germain and the cucumber go together like peas and carrots. You got a little bit of the botanicals of the gin. Now, gin is like, you taste those botanicals and it's just nice and light though. It is, and then it's also very creamy, you know, egg white cocktail. It's fantastic. This is going in my rotation, especially in the summertime. Amazing, love it. There it is, Giny Germain. This cocktail comes out of a book called Drinking. The first.
And we don't have a new unopened one outside somewhere?
No, we don't. Yeah, I don't know where. 3 medium to small sage leaves. If you have larger sage leaves, I can't talk today. That's nice. There you go. I think I would shoot that before we mess it up by sipping it and all that.